this show is all about the White Rabbit. It's all about the villain. The villain essentially is the main character. He's the one we learn the most about. He's the one that's given the most depth. We understand why he's doing what he's doing. He has the absolute best standalone episode in this show. Hoon Lee, who voices the White Rabbit in this, again, this demonic terrorist who is seeking to essentially merge the human and demon realms for mysterious reasons, is fantastic. Let's go ahead and move on to my review, a short review for Netflix's Devil May Cry. I know this show came out a couple weeks ago, at this point, a couple months ago. I've just been so busy with a number of things in my life. But I've been watching this series. I've been doing audio commentaries for it, reactions for it. And I want to talk about it for quite some time. I mean, I guess before really jumping into the narrative itself and the animation and the characters and everything, I do want to kind of briefly talk about just Devil May Cry in general. I'm definitely an outsider when it comes to Devil May Cry. I played some of the games, over the years. Played the original one way back when. Played a bit of 2. 2 is typically viewed as like the worst entry in the series. Not a very good game from what I remember. But I never played 3, which everyone loves. Definitely a high point. Never played 4. But I recently came back to Devil May Cry. I want to say, I guess it was 2018, 2019. It was when they released Devil May Cry 5. And I love that game. I thought it was, again, from a gameplay perspective, the gameplay felt so good. Playing those characters of Nero, of Dante, of V. Thought it was great. Loved the personality of it, the use of music, just the aesthetic, just kind of like the fuck you attitude. I liked it a lot, even though I knew very little about the world and the overarching, narrative. It's just like, oh, this is just a really fun experience and good to just kind of drop out of occasionally. I had a blast. Actually, maybe want to check out like 1 and 3, kind of the other great entries in the series. And I guess people like 4 as well. But that's pretty much my experience with Devil May Cry. Not as much knowledge as, obviously, passionate Devil May Cry fans. But when it was announced that they're going to do Devil May Cry series, like, oh, that's going to be cool. I'm interested in that. Especially because people forget, this series was announced after the first season of Castlevania, which I was, of course, a huge fan of. I love that adaptation. Really enjoyed those 4 seasons, and I like Nocturne. It got some criticisms against it, but that's like how long the show has been in production for. I feel like, I don't know the history if they've had issues behind the scenes. I imagine so, but we finally got it after all those years of waiting. And people don't know, like, Devil May Cry is the series is a very mature, very adult, animated, urban fantasy show where you're essentially following this demon hunter for hire named Dante as he's attempting to pretty much stop this invasion of Earth headed by this terrorist, this seemingly demon-esque terrorist called the White Rabbit, while also coming into conflict with the human organization called DARKCOM. Dark Realm Command, I believe that's what it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm getting the acronym wrong. Which is under the control of Vice President Kevin Conroy, and I believe his last role, which, I'm a huge Kevin Conroy fan, so to hear his voice again was like really nice. And DARKCOM, one of the specific divisions of DARKCOM, the squad, is being led by the character known as Lady from the series, who is often paired with Dante as a love interest. Although, from what I understand and from what I remember, this is a very loose adaptation of Devil May Cry. And I guess I'm pretty much the ideal person for this show because I have a somewhat limited experience with the series and its lore and the games, obviously. And so just knowing that there's existence and the characters and the personality and that kind of thing. And so I'm just kind of letting the whole show wash over me, essentially, giving it a chance. I know for a fact they've changed a lot of things, and much to some people's chagrin. But I have to say, at the top, overall, I did enjoy this series, despite its flaws. And it has a number of flaws, I'm going to point out. And it features, I think, some really interesting characters and stories, particularly the main villain. of the White Rabbit, which I guess is a part of the Devil May Cry lore, but he's more of like a tertiary thing. I think in maybe a graphic novel or so, though I think this is a very different take on the character. And I think in the animation, I think for the most part is good, but I did have some issues with the use of CGI and 3D models. But, this is an 8-episode series showing, I guess, kind of the first years of Dante as a demon hunter, DARKCOM, hunting down like all these demons, these demon incursions. You have more demons coming, into Earth essentially through some mysterious means. And we find out that means is because of the White Rabbit, who is essentially this demon terrorist who has major issues with humanity and DARKCOM. Like at the top, I think one of the things that is really good about this show is the voice cast. They have Johnny Young Bach, who is the voice of Dante in this. Now, Johnny Young Bach has a lot of, he has a pretty big connection with Devil May Cry. He's actually the voice of Nero from the series. I think voiced Nero in 4 and in 5, and now they have him return to Devil May Cry, but playing a much younger Dante. And as far as I can tell, I think he captures the personality of Dante quite well. Dante, well, he's a rogue, but he's got a bit of a heart of gold, I would say. He puts on this kind of obnoxious exterior, this facade, but he cares more, I would say, than he doesn't. And I think what they give him in the moment for some of these scenes, this sarcastic attitude and everything like that, the obnoxious jokes. I mean, it very much feels like Dante. Is Dante the strongest part of the Devil May Cry series, of this adaptation? No. And I think that might be one of the issues. However, the characters that stood out more to me, I would say, is probably Mary Ann Arkham, Lady, essentially, voiced by Scout Taylor Compton. I don't know if she's voiced a character previously. This is her first time. And she essentially plays this DARKCOM lieutenant who is investigating these demon incursions, runs into conflict with Dante, who is needed for this big grand scheme. And apparently there was a lot of controversy with this character, although I would say for like the first half of the season, I was kind of digging her. She was badass, she was sexy, she had a number of great scenes. I liked the voice acting for her. I feel like in the latter half of the season is when I started to understand people's issues, where a lot of her dialogue, she's just fucking swearing. She's just saying fuck a lot throughout the entire show. And even though she comes to learn kind of more about like what's actually going on, the grand conspiracy within this series, she still like acts the same despite that. And I found that a little frustrating, but I feel like Taylor Compton's performance though was good, and what she was given, she was doing the best job that she could. And I liked it. Again, as someone who's a little unfamiliar with Lady, having again played the first game so long ago, not really knowing too much about her, and then in 5, she's not like a major character at all, which I guess perhaps was a narrative criticism in that game. I was like, okay, I guess it's just how the character is, I suppose. But her action scenes and things and her abilities were pretty cool to see throughout the show. The thing is, though, like, this show is all about the White Rabbit. It's all about the villain. The villain essentially is the main character. He's the one we learn the most about. He's the one that's given the most depth. We understand why he's doing what he's doing. He has the absolute best standalone episode in this show. Hoon Lee, who voices the White Rabbit in this, again, this demonic terrorist who is seeking to essentially merge the human and demon realms for mysterious reasons, is fantastic. I think he's great. I love because his whole thing, the White Rabbit, it's his whole aesthetic is based off of the White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland, And, I'm late for a very important date, which is really cool. Like, his voice acting is fantastic. The way he says, Dante, like, he gets into it. He's at a fucking 11. He's charismatic. He has an excellent anthropomorphic, like, design. I think that's really, really, really cool. He gets the best dialogue in the entire show. And yeah, he's the one that has the biggest, just, and most interesting narrative focus, in my opinion. There's a particular episode in this series that's my favorite. It's episode 6. It's the most different, where it explores the origins essentially of Lady Marianne Arkham and her upbringing with her father, who and her mother and the father, like they encounter a demon and they survive, though it traumatizes them, it traumatizes the father, and he's trying to prove that demon kind is real, and that goes horribly wrong. And then the other part of and it's told in really cool. It's told like in this monochromatic way where it's all in black and white. And then in the other half of that episode, essentially, and they're intertwined, where you follow the character who I initially thought like, oh, is this Virgil? It's not Virgil. It's a new character as far as I know. And we follow the White Rabbit and their upbringing, what led them to discover the demon world. And they use this like really interesting kind of animation style that I thought was so great and kind of cute, but at the same time terrifying at the same time. And they managed to have both worlds, both stories cross into each other, intertwine. I thought it was wonderful. And I really liked it. And we learned more about the White Rabbit and who is just known as the White Rabbit and what he's gone through over time and why he becomes, who he becomes throughout the entire show. I thought was great. I love everything they do with him. He's, to me, the reason to watch this series. Even if you don't want to watch the whole thing, I actually highly recommend watching episode 6 because it feels very standalone. Get some context in there for maybe like the first several episodes and then watch episode 6. I think it's great. But Hoon Lee as White Rabbit, stand out. Thought he was great. And as I said, Kevin Conroy, obviously long career, 30 plus years voicing Batman main series and video games, countless movies. It was wonderful to hear his voice again as the evil vice president, who is a religious nut job, who is a fanatic, who wants to purge the world of all of demonkind, although maybe all of demonkind is not evil. But according to him, all demonkind is. What he was given, I think, was fun, just as this religious zealot. I did enjoy his performance as well. And we also have this side character who is essentially Dante's friend. He's like a little blonde-haired Danny DeVito, Enzo, who is this like information broker, arms dealer, voiced by Chris Coppola. He does a really good job, and he's kind of like the comic relief in this series. I think that was great. But yeah, I think, as I said, I think that just the villain, the White Rabbit, and Lady, to a degree, though not nearly to the degree that the White Rabbit does, they kind of end up overshadowing Dante in the show. Like, so much of the narrative just starts to focus on them. And it's like, yeah, they bring up Dante being the chosen one, and you're the son of Sparta and all that. But eventually, it's kind of becomes white noise. And you're just more focused on these other two characters, particularly the White Rabbit villain. That I'm like, I'm more invested in his story. He's getting the most to do. I feel like he's the most defined. And Dante, well, not bad. I just don't feel like he's as interesting as the other two. Certainly not as interesting as the main villain. And I can totally understand why that would annoy people who are like, listen, Dante's the main goddamn character of Devil May Cry. And this show is just not focusing as much as it probably should on him. But as a fan, like as a person who is just not as familiar with the franchise and just kind of having this all wash over me, I was still invested enough to like really get into the character of the White Rabbit and what they were going through. I really enjoyed that. The series essentially ends setting up for season 2, which is going to involve a very, very popular character from the games. I'm not going to say who, but you all know who, right? Because I'm not going to say who it is, but it's obvious. And the series is like, like we all know. But yeah, I think overall I enjoyed the show. The animation, that's the other thing I wanted to say. The animation initially started out like really strong. The first 2 episodes is great. Excellent action choreography, the 2D, wonderful. However, in episode 3, they start to add in these 3D models and CGI 3D models, and you can tell when the 3D CGI and they're trying to mix it to 2D, it's just not the same. And I found that frustrating, especially because like comparing it to Castlevania, for instance, which yes, certainly Castlevania at times maybe used some 3D CGI, but it was rare. Very rare. For the most part, they used a lot of fucking proper 2D animation. That's why it looks so fucking good as it does. But here, it looks like it feels like they didn't have the same amount of budget, or maybe because there's production issues that they had. Like, this show took a long time to make, apparently, or get going. So they're like, listen, we got to get this fucking thing out. Let's do some 3D animation here. And it's noticeable. And that I found frustrating. Although in episode 6, there are certain episodes where it's like, okay, we're going to save our production budget for this. And I think that's on display in the first couple episodes. Episode 6, I think, is gorgeous and beautiful and really heartfelt and interesting. And in the last episode, there's a lot of great animation too. But I really wish they didn't use those 3D CGI models. But yeah, overall, listen, despite its flaws, I still had fun with it. I enjoyed it. Possibly more than the average Devil May Cry fan, just because I'm not as exposed to it. Love the White Rabbit character. Thought they were great. Loved their whole story and their origin and why they are doing what they are doing. It's very interesting. But it's flawed. It's good, but it has some notable flaws, and I hope that they address them in the next season. But yeah, I'm curious. I know this show's been out for, I guess, the last couple of months. Apologies for the delay. I wanted to talk about it since I've been doing audio commentaries for it, which all of them will be up by the time this review is up on the YouTube now. So feel free to check those out at your leisure. But what about you guys? What do you think of Devil May Cry as a series, the video games? What did you think of the show? Did you actually love it? Were you more mixed on it? I guess I'm kind of mixed positive. Or did you downright hate it? You think what they did to Dante was terrible? I don't give a shit about White Rabbit. Let me know. 5 minutes later. The problem is Dante is cool because he's lame, but thinks he's cool. Yeah, but isn't that kind of Dante, though? Isn't that kind of his whole thing? Although I don't think... I don't like... Oh, excuse me. Only thing I don't like is the voice actor because he plays Nero in the game. Right, Johnny Youngbuck. Well, I got over it. It takes a little bit for me. Of Nero. All right, sure. No, I mean, that's the thing where if you've been playing the games for years... especially 4 and especially 5, and so much of that focus is on Nero, I could tell where that would throw you off. It's just like, this is definitely a younger Dante, and as someone who hasn't, played the games in a few years, it didn't affect me as much personally. So I was like, all right, he's just a younger Dante. But I get that. I totally understand that criticism. I'm like, yeah. Hell of a plot syndrome with the swearing. She does swear a lot. She swears a lot more in the last half. Please talk about the last minutes. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. The last 5 minutes, it sets up for season 2. That's all I'll say. Chris, less you know about Devil May Cry, Lord, the more you will like to. Oh, 100%. I fully acknowledge it. I fully acknowledge it going in, having only played a couple of the games, essentially, and having a very much an outsider knowledge of it. Be like, maybe best knowing the bare bones. Yeah, I think, you'll like it more. But if you're really into Devil May Cry, you really like the lore and all the characters and all the relationships and the specifics of it, I can see some of this being a turnoff. I get it. I totally concede that. Oh, you're right. The villain was the best part. I fucking love the villain. I thought the White Rabbit was awesome. I loved his episode, especially episode 6. And the music. The music in this series, I gotta highlight that, is also used very, very well. I dug the hell out of it. You have Limp Bizkit, Edgy Berserker. I'm glad you're here. The use of Limp Bizkit in the beginning, I thought was great. Rolling. Wonderful intro to that. Evanescence is used in the 6th episode, and most of that episode is actually silent too. Or excuse me, there's no speaking, there's no dialogue. A couple of lines for the most part, but it's mostly just the music and the imagery, and I really like that. So the use of music in the show, I should have praised in the beginning, is quite good. That I thought worked. And music, does play a huge role in Devil May Cry, especially during the action scenes and the gameplay and stuff. I did like that quite a bit. As you play Mario Kart World, it is so much fun. I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's good to hear. You can we'll talk about it while we play Mario Kart tonight. Never get Limp Bizkit cause a ride in Woodstock 96. My God. I didn't like the use of Butterly by Crazy Town. I don't. I have nothing to add. Again, I'm definitely ignorant when it comes to Butterfly. Talking about Butterfly. Oh. I didn't mind that. No. I didn't mind that at all. I actually liked how they used that. Come, my lady. I thought that was very fun. I thought, I don't know. I thought was funny. that one didn't bother me at all. I actually liked that quite a bit. And again, I like the show. I like the show. It's not without its flaws. But I liked it more than I didn't. So check it out at your leisure.